So, good afternoon. I'm doing kind of a two-in-one today for our daily, weekly devotions. Um, I don't know, I'm a little bit in a weird state of mind right now. If anybody understands what it's like being a single parent, there's just things that are just really complicated going on, and now I have to seek the help of a lawyer with something, and it's just not turning into a very good thing. And it means that I may have to miss part of my work, other things like that. I may have to leave early, and in the meantime, I might also have some of this money being taken out of my paychecks, which is going to make things really rough. And I don't know what I'm going to do. So I guess I want to do these two devotions basically for the weekend. I was going to do some videos yesterday, and it was kind of a weird day. So I wasn't able to. And just, I don't know, it was a beautiful day. I didn't want to be inside. I'm a little bit cold today, so I've got a little blanket. And I just don't want to go into a lot of big detail because a lot of people don't really need to know that. It's just things will get worked out, and this is the whole point of having faith. It's not about the things that are happening to us. It's what's being done through us, I guess you could say. So today I'll be focusing on maintaining unity and where our fears live. And I will be looking at Ephesians 4 verses 1 through 6 and 1 Kings chapter 17 to 24. So in this first one, Albert Lee is the writer. So I don't know, when I read this, I really thought this really makes sense. So he writes, a man stranded by himself on an island was finally discovered. His rescuers asked him about the 3 huts they saw there. He pointed and said, this one is my home, and that one is my church. He then pointed to the 3rd hut. That was my former church. Though we may laugh at the silliness of the story, it does highlight a concern about unity among believers. The church of Ephesus, during the time of the Apostle Paul, was comprised of both rich and poor, Jews and Gentiles, men and women, masters and slaves. And where differences exist, so does friction. One concern Paul wrote about was the issue of unity. But observe what Paul said about this issue in Ephesians 4, verse 3. He didn't tell them to be eager to produce or to organize unity. He told them to endeavor to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. Unity already exists because believers share one body, one Spirit, one hope, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, and one God and Father of all. How do we keep the unity? By expressing our different opinions and convictions with lowliness, gentleness, and patience. The Spirit will give us the power to react in love towards those with whom we disagree. So it basically just says, Paul's writing this, as a prisoner for the Lord, I then urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit. Just as you were called to one hope, when you were called, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. And I really kind of want to add, in verse 7 it mentions, but to each one of us, grace has been given as Christ apportioned it. And I just think that's helpful. I mean, and this really is not strictly, honestly, it's not strictly just for believers. I wish that all people would be able to maintain some sort of unity. And then they put in for the little prayer to focus on for this one was, Lord, may our walk and our service be a picture of the unity of the Father, Son, and Spirit in heaven above. Fill us with the fruit of the Spirit that we might love others as you desire. See, that's the thing. A lot of people don't understand the true purpose of love, and everything's misguided. And it's real, real sad that this stuff has to happen. Trying to find the next one. And then the other one is devotionals for discussing fear and God's presence. Randy Kilgore wrote this stuff. He wrote this little passage. He's writing, 12 years into our marriage, my wife and I were discouraged by the emotional roller coaster of hopes raised and dashed in attempting to have children. A friend tried to explain God's thinking. Maybe God knows you'd be a bad father, he said. He knew that my mother had struggled with a terrible temper. Then Christmas 1988, we learned we were expecting our first child, but now I had this nagging fear of failure. The following August, Catherine joined our family. As nurses and doctors attended to my wife, Catherine cried on the warming tray. I offered my hand to comfort her, and her tiny fingers wrapped around my finger. In that instant, the Holy Spirit swept through me, assuring me of what I had only recently doubted, that I would show love to this little one. The widow of Zarephath also had doubts. Her son had been struck with a lethal illness. In her despair, she cried out to the Lord, Have you come to me to bring my sin to remembrance and kill my son? But God had other plans. We serve a God who is mightier than the struggles we inherit, and who is full of the desire to forgive, love, and heal the brokenness that rises up between us and Him. God is present in the places where our fears live. So in this passage, sometime later, the son of the woman who owned a house became ill. He grew worse and worse, and finally stopped breathing. She said to Elijah, What do you have against me, man of God? Did you come to remind me of my sin and kill my son? Give me your son, Elijah replied. He took him from her arms, carried him to the upper room where he was staying, and laid him on his bed. He cried out to the Lord, Lord my God, have you brought tragedy even on this widow I am staying with by causing her son to die? Then he stretched himself out on the boy 3 times and cried out to the Lord, Lord my God, let this boy's life return to him. The Lord heard Elijah's cry, and the boy's life returned to him, and he lived. Elijah picked up the child and carried him down from the room into the house. He gave him to his mother and said, Look, your son is alive. Then the woman said to Elijah, Now I know that you are a man of God, and that the word of the Lord from your mouth is the truth. So I think what they're saying is when they're describing how Elijah stretched himself out on the boy, I'm not even sure how we're supposed to take that, because it sounds like he wasn't putting his full body weight over the boy, but he was like laying over the boy, like, I don't know, hovering. I've never read this passage, so to a lot of people it might sound really crazy. I can imagine. And like this woman was so afraid that she thought that her sins were being called out to remembrance, and that was her punishment, that her son dies. I mean, that's not how God is. And, people shouldn't get caught up in this thing, like, to overanalyze what happened. I mean, a lot of people might think, oh, you're stretching yourself out on a child that weighs like a fraction of what you weighed, and people will think, oh, well, he was abusing the boy or he was hurting him. Well, don't look at that specific thing. And the whole reason of 3 times is he's doing it in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And that's kind of what I thought there. And another person might say, oh, well, there's this man of God staying with a widow. What is his ulterior motive? I mean, no, it's not like that. And that's what probably a lot of people would be turned away from in, following the Christian religion. Or I don't even like the term putting Christian and religion in the same sentence, because religion's about doctrine and rules and dogma, and Christianity is more about the spirituality, the relationships, and all that. And, you know, that's so true. Basically, whatever brokenness we have in us, you know, it can be brought back into wholeness. And then also for the prayer here for this daily devotional says, Father, make yourself known to us in our weakest moments and in our greatest fears. Teach us to receive your love in a way that enables us to show it to others, especially those closest to us. And the thing is, this is not strictly just for believers. It'd be nice if non-believers could kind of see how this works too, and like, people need to show love for the right motives and not let earthly fears overtake us. Because a lot of times when people get afraid, they don't want to trust in something that they can't understand. You know, God's supernatural. Science can't prove or disprove anything about God. But the Bible supports scientific evidence. Many scientific things. I don't have the book with me because I would have to purchase it from work. I'd have to find out if I could actually purchase it. They have it in our break room. I'm not sure why it's in our break room, but it's kind of interesting because it's got a lot of neat little tidbits in it. So, like, it basically talks about the history of the history of different passages, you know, the different people that are involved in the Bible. There's a lot of statistics as well. So, yeah, and I think a lot of people just get really intimidated by everything. But I think for now I'm going to wrap this up, and I might have another video out a little bit later. I'm gonna maybe do my reading. I kind of want to keep that one to about a 14-minute type video too. I haven't really, actually I don't think I've gotten any comments on my other videos for the book reading of Ireland. So I don't know. And then the subscription number kind of fluctuates. I don't know. I think people just maybe lose their channels or something. And then the next devotional I will be doing will be talking about leadership in God's love. It'll be on 1 John 4 verses 7 through 10, which I will mention again at the time. And if I decide to do other devotionals, I might do a midweek devotional. I don't know yet. Wednesdays are really hard to do because I'm sometimes not home until later. So, thanks for tuning in.